Hey guys, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. And today I want to talk about basically the need for privacy versus the need for data in the middle of a pandemic. And this is what's going on. Now, basically, in general, we as a society are trusting less. Now, in terms of me, as someone in the cybersecurity field whose very first TED Talk was called Trust Sucks, I'm actually kind of happy to see this. Though in my talk, I also talk about how we need trust. We can't really have a society without it. And right now, we have something that is really illuminating this issue we have. And basically, we are at an all-time low with this trust. And this is contact tracing apps for the coronavirus. This is illuminating this issue. Now, some of this is coming from reporting from France 24, but a lot of this is my own thoughts on this. So basically, as more governments are turning to tracing apps to fight against the coronavirus, a deep-rooted tension between the need for public health information as well as privacy rights is basically being thrust into the spotlight. Now, contact tracing technology is essentially being touted as a silver bullet that will allow economies to reopen and people to emerge from basically sheltering in place, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, and health authorities are keeping tabs on the viruses through these contact tracing apps. But obviously, many fear that the personal data that is gathered by governments or companies in the name of pandemic control will be abused for political or commercial gain or outright oppression in authoritarian states. And I actually think this is for very good reason. Now, to quote Yuval Noah Harari, he wrote in the Financial Times, "If we are not careful, the epidemic might mark an important watershed in the history of surveillance." And I think that's true, although this has been ramping up for about the last decade or so. Right now, we have seen governments in Asia which don't have the historical foundations of liberalism in their government, and obviously I mean liberalism in the classic sense of the concept, not the American version or term for liberal. They are forcing entire populations to install contact tracing apps. Hundreds of thousands of Asians have had to do this in various countries like China, South Korea, Taiwan, etc., etc. But in the West, there are many that are heavily resisting this, since in many countries there are truly no clearly defined laws for data privacy, and that includes the United States. The whole reason why California spun up their own, the CCPA, is because the United States federal government has been very slow to respond to data privacy protections. And this is all coming in the backdrop of the explosion of fake news, conspiracy theories, Edward Snowden dropping massive surveillance bombs against the US government, and even a steep political divide. And so there's no wonder that this pandemic and the response to this isn't one of, let's say, a patriotic duty where we're all unified to keep each other healthy. It's become a politicized mess, at least here in the United States, where patriotism is either defined as sheltering in place with a mask to keep people safe, or thinking that this whole pandemic is all BS and we need to get back to running up the economy and sitting with thousands of other people on a beach, obviously completely unprotected. And I'm not throwing stones at either side here, but this is where we are. And it seems like two camps are seriously being divided here, and these are the two most vocal in the news. So it's no wonder these apps are being met with heavy resistance. And if anything, this whole situation, while I do think that we need to have something that is going to be more effective in ensuring that we are not spreading the pandemic, to this, it has to be in the backdrop of data privacy laws, and that is something that the United States and many other countries have thoroughly neglected. Now, it's in part not the federal government's fault in this, in that technology tends to move significantly faster and pivot significantly faster than usually a government that has to debate and go through red tape to make a bill into a law, whatever country you're in. Can't usually keep up with that, but we have seen some serious progress in the last couple of years with things here like the CCPA in California and definitely the GDPR in the European Union. And so if we had these things in place, then we may have more recourse in the law if we find out that our data is being used in some way that we were not informed of, or for some kind of malfeasance, or for government control or marketing and all of that. And that's a very serious issue. The other part of this too would be that, as we are seeing, let's say, the rise of possibly authoritarianism around the world as well, even in Western countries, and there have been a lot of studies on this as well, that might be something too that other people are going to be resisting from the other side of the aisle, that says, well, I'm not going to give my information to an authoritarian government if I don't have to. Obviously not saying that we've got that here or elsewhere, but we are seeing populist movements rising, throughout Europe and in the United States and North America and all of that as well. Again, not casting dispersions. This is simply just what's happening on the ground, and there have been multiple studies on this as well. So I think that this is basically a disaster of our own making here, because in a time when we should be pulling together, when we actually do need that little bit of trust, it's already been evaporated. And you can blame social media for that. You can blame fake news. You can blame, fake news by foreign influence of foreign state actors, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to extend to each other, I think, just a little bit of trust, even if that's a very hard thing to do, because quite frankly, we're all in this together. So we're going to see where this goes. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I have no doubt that half of you will call me an idiot as usual, but that is all good. And I'm glad you're watching, and I would love, like I said, to hear your thoughts on this. So that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.